Every single NFL team has at least one player who absolutely dominates every time he steps onto the field. So in this video, we're gonna take a look at the best player in each NFL team, starting right away with Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions. Ever since being drafted in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, he has very well earned his spot in this offense. St. Brown is already one of the most productive wide receivers out there, which is certainly proven by the fact he is also one of the best paid ones. Up next, we have DeAndre Hopkins for the Titans. He's had an amazing career, and even though he hasn't been in Tennessee for that much, his impact is no joke. Will Levis loves to look his way, and he always comes up clutch whenever he's needed to. Moving on, Terry McLaurin. He's not only one of the most underrated players, but also one of the most skilled ones. His numbers speak for themselves, and well, there isn't much competition in this Washington roster to have any other player on this list. Now for the Bills is Josh Allen. He's undoubtedly a top 5 quarterback and one of the guys who can run an extremely explosive offense. His stats are simply amazing, and I think everyone is well aware that he's the best player in this Buffalo team. On to the Seahawks, we have DK Metcalf. This is a rather talented team, but I think this guy just cuts the edge. Metcalf is already one of the best wideouts in the NFL, and there's no denying he has the talent to be even better than he already is. Up next, Patrick Surtain for Denver. I think he's the best player on this team by quite a large margin. Surtain is one of the best corners in the entire league, and it doesn't really seem like he'll be slowing down anytime soon. Moving on, Justin Jefferson for the Vikings. He can make a case as the best and most talented wideout in the entire NFL. Just take a look at his numbers. Jefferson is a superstar, and players like him truly come only once per generation, so of course he is the best one in Minnesota. On to the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. I would dare to say he's the best overall player in the NFL right now, so obviously that means he's also the top guy in KC. Mahomes is a generational quarterback who will most likely retire as one of the greatest ones to ever do it. Up next, we have Lamar Jackson for the Ravens. He won the MVP award last season for a reason. Jackson is probably the most dynamic NFL player out there, and his playstyle is something rather unique and impressive. Of course, he's the best player in Baltimore. Moving on to the Jets is Aaron Rodgers. We haven't seen him play too much due to his injury last season, but regardless when it comes to talent, there's no denying he is the best player in this team, especially given his experience. Furthermore, we have DJ Moore for the Bears. This is one of the most underrated players in the league, even though his stats are quite impressive. Moore may have to share some targets with Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, but I'm confident that as of right now, he remains as the #1 wideout in Chicago. Moving on, Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers. At this point in time, it's clear for everyone that he's the best running back in the NFL. McCaffrey's game adds a whole new dimension to this Niners offense, and I would confidently say he's the most valuable player over in San Francisco. Up next, Michael Pittman for the Colts. He's one of the most skilled receivers in the league and the heart and soul of this offense. Quarterback play has hurt him in the past, but even with that, his production remains top tier as he is the best player over in Indianapolis. Now for the Saints, Demario Davis. He's single-handedly the most important defensive player in New Orleans as he has surpassed 100 tackles ever since he got there. He's insanely underrated and honestly one of the best defenders the NFL has. Up next, Ja'Marr Chase for the Bengals. I think this was a close one between him and Joe Burrow, and for me, it ultimately came down to availability. And even outside of that, Chase is easily a top 5 wideout, so of course he'll be a really big name for Cincy. Moving on, CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys. He absolutely broke out last season as he absolutely dominated opposing defenses. He's now established as one of the top receivers in the league, and of course he's the best player Dallas has. Now we have Kyler Murray for the Cardinals. This team doesn't really have one top tier star, but Murray is an amazing player. Injuries have been a liability for him, but outside of that, he truly has the potential to be one of the most successful quarterbacks out there. On to the Texans, CJ Stroud. He's entering his 2nd season, but I think his numbers just come to prove he's the best player in Houston. Stroud has the potential to be a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, and I believe he already is at the very least top 10, maybe even higher up the list. Moving on is Puka Nacua for the Rams. I'll admit it, this is heavily based off last season's production, because otherwise I would have chosen Cooper Kupp here. However, I want to give Puka some credit for having what arguably was the best rookie season in NFL history. Now for Philly, AJ Brown. He is known to be a top tier receiver receiver capable of making the play regardless of who's guarding him. His talent is truly impressive, and if he continues to produce as much as he has, he could be on his way to break some records throughout his career. Up next, Dexter Lawrence for the Giants. I feel like the media doesn't really give this guy the respect he deserves. I mean, his numbers look amazing, and when you actually take a look at his plays, he's one of the most disruptive defenders in the entire league. Moving on is TJ Watt for the Steelers. He is the best defensive player in the NFL and easily the most impactful player over in Pittsburgh. Watt is on his way to becoming a Hall of Famer, as he already owns multiple Steelers all-time records. And if you watch him play live, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And speaking of watching games live, here's just a quick reminder that you can get a $20 discount on NFL tickets by using code PFB on SeatGeek.com. Anyways, let's move on as we have Jessie Bates for the Atlanta Falcons. He's a top-tier safety capable of making the game-changing play at any given time. Bates has a jaw-dropping instinct for the game, and his impressive production turned him into one of the best players in this Falcons team. Up next is Joshua Hines Allen for the Jaguars. Just in case you weren't up to date, Josh Allen changed his name, but that doesn't change the fact he is the best player in Jacksonville. His production is unmatched, and he can easily become one of the top edge rushers at any given time. Now for the Raiders, Davante Adams. Despite being on the late end of his career, his talent is still quite impressive to say the least. He's the core member of the Raiders offense, as he makes all the key plays in order to keep this team moving the ball down the field. Up next, Tyreek Hill for Miami. He had an historical season last time around, even with a not so amazing quarterback play. Hill has the potential to break multiple single season receiving records this season, so I'm kinda counting on him being the best Dolphins player out there. On to the Panthers, Derrick Brown. I think he has been rather underrated for the most part of his career, but that ends today. Brown is one of the most important players in this Panthers team, which isn't really saying much, but take a look at his play and you'll honestly see a superstar. Furthermore, Jordan Love for the Packers. He had his first season as a starter in 2023, and not only did he not disappoint, but he surpassed everyone's expectations. Love is on his way to becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the league, as he's already the best player for the Packers. Up next, Myles Garrett for the Browns. He's one of the most disruptive and physical edge rushers the league has seen in recent history. This stacked Browns defense runs through him, as he's potentially the most valuable player Cleveland has right now. Moving on, we have Matt Judon for the Patriots. His 2023 season wasn't anything impressive, but let's look past that. This Patriots team isn't really that stacked, and Judon is arguably the most talented one, and I'm sure he'll have a much better year next season. On to the LA Chargers, Justin Herbert. He's undoubtedly a top 5 quarterback who, despite not having the best supporting cast, always pulls through. The sky's the limit for Herbert, and as of right now, I don't think there's any player on the Chargers who can even come close to him. And now for the Buccaneers, Mike Evans. He's probably the most consistent receiver to ever play in the NFL, surpassing 1,000 yards every single year. Evans is just an amazing receiver, and I can confidently say he is the best weapon Tampa has at their disposal. So if you enjoyed this video, remember subscribing is always a great idea. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you stick around.